What's happening, guys? Silent Mike, Super Training Gym, howmuchyoubench.net. Quick announcement before we get into the video, guys. I worked my way to the top. I might have done some things, I worked some shit out, but basically what I worked on is I got you guys 15% off all slingshots and all wraps for the next week at howmuchyoubench.net. Personally, I use the strong wraps, they're brand new. I use those for bench. I use the gangster wraps normally when I squat, do dumbbells, or overhead. And then my two favorite slingshots are the blue, the reactive, and then also the yellow, the full bore. So right now, click the link in the description down in the profile, guys. Type in silentmike15 is the code. That's silentmike15. Get 15% off all wraps, all slingshots. Go get yours now. What's happening, guys? Silent Mike, Super Training Gym, Mark Bell's Powercast here, and I want to talk a little bit to you guys about the differences between powerlifting and bodybuilding. The training, the lifestyle, obviously the sport itself. Bodybuilding has to do with symmetry, leanness, muscularity, looks, aesthetics, where powerlifting has to do with the weight on the bar. But I believe that there's more similarities in the training and lifestyle than there are differences. Now, I'm no bodybuilder. I do plan to get on stage at some point in my life, but I have not. I'm lucky enough to be good friends with some IFBB pros and also natural pros, so I have a good insight. I've interviewed many of those guys. I have a little idea of what it takes in powerlifting. Obviously, I've been doing it for years now, coaching a lot of powerlifters, competing myself, and hanging out with some of the top in the game. Let's get started. With training, in my opinion, it's best for both sports, both athletes, to train a variety of rep ranges, multiple sets, and varying intensities. Each set range, each time under tension, has a different energy system within your body and also hits different muscle fibers. So sets from 1 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and even 15 plus, 20, 30, 40, will hit different muscle fibers. In the case of a bodybuilder, this is obviously going to help because the more muscle fibers you hit in a certain muscle, say your pecs, the more chance you stimulate them, the more chance they have to grow back bigger if nutrition, sleep, recovery is on lock. And in terms of powerlifting, the same occurs where you can build a bigger muscle. A bigger muscle in powerlifting in the long run is going to be better because a bigger muscle has the potential to be a more powerful muscle. The more muscle you have, the potential you have to use that muscle to produce more force, more strength, more power into the barbell. Now, you say, oh, Mike, you said a bigger muscle has the potential to be a more powerful muscle. And I do say potential because we could have lifter A and lifter B, both weigh 200 pounds. Lifter B has less muscle. I forgot which one was B. This guy has less muscle. This guy has more muscle, but this guy is stronger. Well, it's relative to themselves. So once this guy gains more muscle relative to himself, he will have the potential to be stronger. But just because you have the most amount of muscle doesn't mean you're going to be the strongest guy on the planet. There's plenty of guys that have higher body fat percentage or less lean muscle tissue, less muscle, and they still outlift other guys. The ultimate goal with both sports is volume and progressive overload. Over time, over a long period of time, gaining more volume in your training. Progressive overload, the basic principles are that if you did 2 sets of 2 at 225 this week, that next week you want to do either 2 sets of 3 at 225 or 2 sets of 2 at 230, regardless of the exercise. So adding a small amount of stimulus, more volume, more work capacity over a long period of time will not only gain better strength, but more muscle. My boy Omar always references, I believe it's a Greek tale where a child takes a baby calf up a mountain every single day. Well, cows grow faster than humans do. So this cow is growing every single day, and soon enough it's an adult cow. Well, to progressively, you're lifting this thing and you're stimulating yourself with the load every single day, but the load's getting bigger every day in very small increments. Obviously, this baby cow is growing, that you will adapt. Obviously, there are limits to that. Otherwise, everyone would be lifting 5 pounds more than they did yesterday, and everyone would be, 5,000 pound benchers. But that's not the case. So eventually, you're going to have to switch your schemes up in programming for both bodybuilding and powerlifting. But that's the general goal. Nutrition, in my opinion, plays a huge factor in both. There's not many things we can do to recover. Recovery and getting stronger is a big question, a big factor in all training, but basically nutrition and sleep and hydration are going to be the key factors. Nutrition for a bodybuilder, once it comes time to compete, is going to be way more extreme and way more vital, obviously, but overall in your off season or just training in general, nutrition and protein synthesis are going to be the ways that you recover from your training. So powerlifters, stereotypically are the fat guys that don't pay any attention to their diet and just pound pizza all day. Although that may have a fraction of truth to it, powerlifters do focus on protein, hydration, and sleep. They just tend to get in an excess amount of calories so they can recover arguably faster. Whereas if you restrict your calories, i.e. a bodybuilder going to stage, your recovery for strength and performance may not be the best. Now, it is becoming more popular on powerlifting side to pay more attention to your nutrition, perhaps track your food, eat multiple meals a day, whatever their style may be, but at least they're focusing on it more because they know it's going to help them in the long run. The biggest thing with both is the mindset that small tasks every single day over a long period of time are going to take you to your goals. You can't become a good bodybuilder or build the physique you want or deadlift 600, 700, 800 pounds by just training one time or a couple times a week. It's going to take a journey and a mindset that you're chipping away at this thing for a long period of time. Both of them, it's cliche, but it's a marathon, not a sprint. Basically just meaning that, and this is my philosophy in all things that we do, if you choose once you choose your goal and you choose one thing to do every single day that gets you closer to that goal, you have a better chance of achieving that goal. It's not promised, it's not guaranteed. That's what we call sacrificing for the unknown. It's not guaranteed that we reach this goal, but if you do something every single day on the way to this goal, you have the best chance to reach that goal. Now here's some of the differences between the sports. In my opinion, the bench, squat, and deadlift, I guess this is still a similarity, is the key factor for both. It should be the cornerstone of all programs because it's the lifts and perhaps an overhead, shoulder, barbell, or dumbbell. But those lifts are the ones that you're going to be able to lift the most amount of weight with, that your body can handle the most amount of weight with, which stimulates the muscles to the greatest effect. So in powerlifting, we obviously do squat, bench, deadlift. The majority of powerlifters, I don't think, would argue this, but they do some kind of row, whether it's a machine, dumbbell, barbell, perhaps a kind of chin-up or overhead, as I mentioned. So there's maybe 5 or 6 exercises that, in my opinion, are vital for a powerlifter. The difference is bodybuilding, there's exercise variation. So in powerlifting, when you talk about bringing up a weakness, something like a West Side Conjugate method, or even just with your accessory movements, you're trying to bring up a weakness that will help you break through a sticking point in a certain bench, squat, or deadlift, or perhaps prevent injury by rows, face pulls, pull aparts, things of that nature, working your rear delts or rotator cuffs to prevent injuries from these other lifts. Well, if you're bringing up a weak point in bodybuilding, what you're going to be doing is literally trying to stimulate that muscle to grow, to even it out for the others. So the exercise variation will be greater. They may do 2 or 3 exercises for biceps or for chest. We're a power lifter for biceps. Yeah, we work our biceps. It's important deaccelerator in the bench and just for general joint health. But guys could get away with doing hammer curls once a week, almost through their whole career. Some do more, some do less. But that's kind of the main factor there is exercise variation, where a bodybuilder, if they need to bring up their biceps, they're probably doing some preacher curls, and they're doing barbell curls, and they're doing reverse grip curls, and they're doing cable curls. And there's a variation involved to stimulate that muscle, to grow it, to keep it more symmetrical with the rest of them. I already mentioned it a little bit, but the nutrition, although it's a similarity, it is also a difference, where a bodybuilder, even in their off season, are going to try to stay reasonably lean because they know in a couple months or years they're going to have to cut back down to that extreme leanness and low body fat percentage to compete in their sport. So their calorie intake, their nutritional protocol is going to be a lot more restricted and a lot more precise than perhaps most powerlifters. This is all stereotypical because everybody is individual, but most powerlifters are going to be a little bit more general with their eating protocols, their nutrition, until perhaps they're trying to go up or down in a weight class in which they might try to get more precise, because powerlifting is a weight class sport. People are often moving up and down. If they're moving up, they're trying to gain more muscle and fill out that weight class. If you're competing at the 220 pound weight class, you don't want to compete at 210. Most of those guys want to compete at 220 or 225 and try to cut, or the opposite. You know, if they're hanging out at 205 or 210, they want to compete at 198. They're going to have to pay attention to their nutrition to cut it back down. As I mentioned before, how exact you are with your nutrition tends to be a lot more strict with the bodybuilding crowd, the aesthetics crowd, and it needs to be compared to the powerlifters who are just trying to get in calories to recover for their next session so they can smash more. The last factor that's a little bit different is perhaps training frequency, which isn't always the case because there's plenty of powerlifters that lift 5 to 6 days a week. You know, some kind of high frequency, high volume Bulgarian splits, some daily undulating periodization. The guys get really higher frequencies, I guess lesser volume spread out over the week, but typically a powerlifter is going to train less a week, or you guys can make more progress training less times a week for strength than, in my opinion, you perhaps can for hypertrophy, where a powerlifter, there's powerlifters that have gone, great powerlifters, gone 2 to 3 times a week. Obviously 4 or 5 is more than normal, but 3 times a week, where most bodybuilders, I think at the top level, would probably say they train more at 4 to 6 times a week, perhaps even 7 depending. Those are just some thoughts, guys. Bodybuilding versus powerlifting, more similar than we are different. If this video helped you guys at all, please share it. Please give it a like. More information, more vlogs, more training, more Q&As coming your guys' way. That's it. Silent Mike, I'm out of here. Come on! Let's go! Up, 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 up! Yeah! Oh yeah. Ahí va.